Morning.
Bear with me here while I let a few people in.
Oh yeah, take your time.
I'm offering to promote some folks as panelists to bring you into the conversation. You do not have to accept, of course, but.
Yep. I know a couple of our board members are coming. Robin, probably.
Great. There's someone calling in from a phone. The last three digits are 685. If you just want to raise your hand and identify yourself, I'm happy to promote you to be a panelist as well. But just for security reasons, I don't want to do that until I know who you are. So, Allison, just bear with me here for a minute. I'm just giving everyone
take your time.
To come
take your time, Mark. I'm block the time. I'm not going anywhere.
Great.
This takes a while given what's been going on lately, right? I mean, gosh.
Yeah, we have an additional layer of security for this meeting. You know, people, of course, can watch from the panelist, from the participant pool, but I also offer, when I recognize someone's name, to bring them in as a panelist as well.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they have to speak. It just means that your mic is open and you can participate openly in the conversation. So. We'll get started in just a minute.
Great.
We have an additional 4 people in the attendee pool that you can't see.
Yeah, I think I see Emmeline.
Hi, Allison.
Yeah, I recognized your logo.
Looks familiar.
Yeah, I'm not wearing our logo today. I'm wearing Windrush Commons.
Well, I'm excited to hear much more about that project. And
I'm going to do my best to bring you what I know. And
great.
Yeah, it's kind of been an exciting time. So it's good timing.
I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but while we're waiting for a few additional folks to come in, is 49 units? Is that right?
Yeah, 49.
So we currently have 10 participants in total.
Change my chair a minute here. I'm gonna
okay. Here come a few more. Anyone in the participant pool, if you see an invite to be promoted as a panelist, again, you don't need to speak. There's no obligation. I'm just bringing you into the conversation so that you can control your mic and speak when you'd like.
Hey, Robin. Morning. He's muted. There you go. Morning.
We'll get started in just a minute. There are a few people in the participant pool calling in. I don't recognize your number, so just raise your hand, identify yourself, and then I will go ahead and promote you as well. So it's a few minutes after 10, and I think I'll get started. Again, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the folks coming in and promote them. So if I seem a little distracted, it's because I am, but I'm also paying attention here. So first of all, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining my December virtual coffee. I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving holiday break and are looking forward to another holiday break in a few weeks. But so I see that there are a lot of familiar faces here. just know that the agenda for this morning is always casual. Raise your hand, jump in, feel free to speak. I want this to be as laid back as possible. But overall, I usually bring in a guest to cover a specific topic. We'll have an open Q&A session at the end of that discussion. I have a few town updates that I'd like to share at some point during this hour, and then we'll just open it up to a general discussion. So anyway, that said, I want to go ahead and introduce our speaker for this month, and that's Allison Marchese, right? I didn't butcher your last name.
You didn't, no, correct.
Okay, good. So welcome, Allison. Allison is the executive director of the Southern Berkshire Community Development Corp, and she joined the CDC in November of 2020 after working as the CDC's marketing and fundraising consultant. And she has a background in the hospitality industry and has worked at Austin Riggs, Kripalu, and Canyon Ranch. So welcome, Allison.
Thank you. Glad to be here. And thanks for everybody for taking the time. I see a lot of familiar faces, so that's nice.
Yeah. So let's get started. I have a few questions for you. If you don't mind, I'll just lead off to get things going this morning. I wanted to just start with a question about the Bentley and Bridge project. We get lots of questions here. People are very, very curious about what's happening down there in the rear portion of the property with the existing units, and then of course with the lot out front. But can you just fill us in on the status of that project?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So just kind of dialing back a little bit, the project completed during COVID. When COVID hit in March of 2020, we were in construction, and gratefully, the whole project kept going, which was really remarkable. So we were really happy to see that construction stayed on schedule. The crew was working outside at that time, which was really, a real plus. And so we completed it on time in April with our partners, Berkshire Housing Development Corp. And Pittsfield. And we opened in May, which was exactly how we scheduled. And, the leasing went beautifully. I understand the statistics from Berkshire Housing is that most of the people came directly from Great Barrington, who actually live in the houses now, or the apartments. And we're fully leased by August. So I was over there yesterday doing a site visit, and it's such a great atmosphere there. Lots of kids, families, it's quiet. It seems to be a very nice community for anybody who's got friends in there and have people who know it. It's really, really a great success for the town. And I feel really great about it. And I know that our team worked really hard alongside of our partners, Berkshire Housing. So it's up and running. So we're really excited about that. As far as the remaining portion of anyone who drives down Bridge Street, you're going to see a couple different things going on there. We're developing a riverfront park along the Housatonic. So as you come over the bridge to your immediate right, you can see a kind of a linear space that has the remainders of a historic smokestack from the previous mill. And that whole parcel is going to be developed into a public park, also with the help of our town CPA funds and a generous grant from the Jane and Jack Fitzpatrick Foundation and Greylock Federal Credit Union. So far, we've done a great job of getting that going with a path, and we've restored the riverfront with native plants, and we're working with the Conservation Commission because our park is in the conservation restriction in a floodplain along the Housatonic. So it's coming along. We have a great park committee. It's made up of board members and volunteers from the community. And we're looking to open the park in May to the public. A very soft opening, no big event yet. And then we've got a design that we're going to roll out in the new year, so we can show everyone how we're going from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 in the park. And the other piece of what's happening on Bridge Street, if you drive down, And notice, please, I hope everyone notices the fabulous sidewalks that the town just put in and trees that went in right under the wire and going into the fall and then having snow. There's a fenced in area that I think people will notice, and that's fenced in because it's still a construction site. And what we're hoping to do there is to do additional affordable housing. Now, what that looks like, what the design will be, how many homes, how many, we're still in the pre-planning there, but we're getting going. We're in discussions with Berkshire Housing Development Corporation to partner with us on that. We're hoping that, crossing our fingers, that we can do home ownership, which would be a little different from what we've been doing. And I'm really excited about that. And our board and our team are working toward having something to talk to the neighbors about in the new year, so we can have a community forum with some kinds of sketches on paper to, start having a conversation about what that looks like. And it's going to have a really great community feel there. So our hope is, between Bentley Apartments, the new housing, affordable housing, and the park, we'll really be building a community in that space that's manageable, beautiful, and functional.
Hey, thanks, Allison.
Can I add one thing to that, Allison?
You, of course. I have my team here, my backup team. So anybody jump in.
So I would just say that that 2-acre project is intended, its design still taking shape, as Allison's talking about, but it's intended to moderate in scale between the buildings at the south end of the property and the homes at the neighboring the site. So we're trying to create a synergy on the site with the park and the apartment buildings and the neighboring property, and better address the street line, or hold the street line on that north and east side of the property. So I think it's going to really tie the whole project into the neighborhood quite nicely.
And I want to add one other thing, which actually Chris Rimbaud pointed out yesterday when we were walking around together. We have this small parcel across the street that kind of moves up the hill to East Mountain and to the Grove Street Park. And we talked about dreaming up, and I think this is quite doable, finding a way to connect all three of those entities at our 100 Bridge Street complexes, and find a way to take a path up the hill into the Grove Street Park, because we have this really unusual little piece of property there that has an old bridge. And I might add also, we've engaged the services of Bernie Drew, who is the town historian, and he's already prepared a 44-page report for us to look at soon of the history of 100 Bridge Street, with maps and visuals. And we can't wait to roll that out with our new park plan. It's going to be a while, but Bernie's doing a fabulous job for us, and we're really excited to have him, as well as Paul Ivory, who's supporting us as we reimagine the smokestack on that site. So we're really looking at it from a historic, a natural point of view, a community point of view. We're really spending a lot of time thinking this whole parcel, not just the pieces, but the whole parcel as one thing.
That's great. Alan, you had your hand up a minute ago. Did you have a question?
He's muted.
Sorry, no, I was just trying to join as the panelist in case there was something.
Oh, gotcha.
Contribute later on. Sorry.
No problem at all. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask a question if you had one.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the group on this Bentley Bridge property before we move on? I want to ask a little more about the CDC's Small Business Assistance Program, but I want to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions about this before we move on. Jonathan?
Yeah, Allison, is it possible to get some just market rate units in there so that we're not creating a ghetto?
Market rate units mean in the new development?
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, Jonathan, there is actually create a home ownership opportunity.
That's great.
So if we go in that direction, I think we're still going to be working toward an affordable price. So obviously we would create that of home ownership so that it went into the affordable home ownership pricing, you know. So we can't say too much about that because we just don't have the data as to what it, but, you know, I think it would be open to us, you know, we would qualify people who would be in that affordable category. As far as creating market rate, I don't know if this is the project for that, but I don't want to say too much because we're so in the beginning stages.
Can I add something?
You sure can.
So just as
may I say that Jim is the president of our board, just in case anyone doesn't know.
And I suffer under the affliction of being an architect. I'm not the architect for this project. So in addition to moderating between the apartment buildings at the back of the building and the neighboring single family houses in scale and style, we're also, and you know, all of this is just about to enter pre-design, right? So it's all taking shape. But in addition to that moderation in scale and style, we also see the income levels moderating, where our goal is still to maximize affordable housing. We might set our income limits higher as a percentage of the average as the AMI. So I think it will moderate in that way as well. And we're very conscious of the pitfall of, you know, you're serving a community with affordable housing, and if you concentrate too much of it in one location, people start talking about ghettoizing. I think we're going to be far from that. So we're sensitive to that concern, and that's how we are intending to address it.
Thanks, Jim. So I'd like to move on and ask you a few questions about this small business assistance program and just hear from you. I did have an opportunity in preparation for today's discussion to look at your website and see what you had online for this program. But I thought it might be helpful for everyone on the line to just hear about this program, who it serves, the goals, and so on.
Yes, this is, so overall, this Community Development Corporation of South Berkshire has a dual mission. And for many, many years, we focused on the affordable housing alone. And this past year, we were able to really bring our economic development goal to fruition and start this program last April with a grant from MGCC. And I have to take my hat off to two ladies here who are women here who are the lead on this. Emmeline Gartner, who's done an astonishing job of making this happen. And she is our manager of finance and operations, and Robin Helfand, who's been our lead board member, who has really made this out in the public, you know, really out there with our program. And so it started with a grant that we were able to do with Hilltown CDC. And jump in here, you guys, if you want to say more. And what we really do is really simple, and it's a simple program. We offer professional one-on-one free consultation to small businesses with fewer than 20 employees. And we try to keep an eye out for women-owned businesses and immigrant-owned businesses and underserved businesses. And really what it's a great program because it directly addresses the business's most biggest concerns and biggest needs. So it's sort of a kind of a torpedo effect. We go right in with the consultant and they work directly with the businesses to work through their most driving needs. So those are free consultations, and the businesses get up to 15 hours with the consultant, and we pay the going rate for the consultants. And we do that through grants and through donations. And we've been supported by a variety of institutions and foundations and local banks. Lee Bank has recently given us a grant toward that. We're seeing more support as we go forward. Robin, do you guys want to say something?
I'll just add, it's been a very successful program. It's designed to help small businesses that are launching, pivoting as a result of the pandemic, or are scaling up as a result. And the statistic that I'd like to cite is we recently did an anecdotal study that showed approximately 90% of the new businesses that launched in the second half of 2021 have either been through the program, are currently in the program, or are about to join the program in 2022. And that's an astonishing number of businesses that we're serving.
Emma, do you want to say something about the businesses themselves?
Yeah, there's a sort of a wide range, as Robin mentioned, new businesses that have joined the program that are just starting, but we've also had businesses that have been in business for 30 years that had to pivot because of the pandemic. So it's really covering a wide range of stages in business development. And we also cover a variety of topics. We have professional consultants in a number of different areas and match the business up depending on what they need help with. And we have I have a conversation when they first apply to the program to make sure that they're getting the best use of the program. But it can be general business help, it can be financial planning, it can be looking at sort of the nitty gritty of QuickBooks, marketing. It really just depends on what the business owner is looking for support in.
I'll add something else to that. We've determined that we've helped the small businesses in South County in particular, but a little bit more broadly, access over $500,000 in EIDL money. And that's happened just in the last less than 6 months, actually. So that's been an extraordinary bonus to the businesses that come into the program, and our understanding of what EIDL is, that's Emergency Impact Disaster Loan money through the SBA, but may not have the tools or the skill set to navigate the system.
Yes, and we've served about, I think, over 35 businesses just since April. So we're really seeing this program grow, and we've been supporting the Entrepreneurs Forum, which Robin and Richard Stanley have initiated, and that is now growing in a membership, in about 100 small businesses have signed up for that. So we're working together to support our small businesses in a variety of ways, as well as working with One Berkshire. We kind of cross-pollinate with their program. Anyone who's in One Berkshire and gone through their program and wants to continue, they can send them down to us, and we can add more consulting hours because they have a certain set number of hours that they can provide. And we're also been partnering with Berkshire Agricultural Ventures with farmers, and the BAV has been also has their own particular style of program for small business, but not exactly what we do. So they will send over a variety of small farmers who are bringing product to market, are looking for advice and consult when it comes to small business loans. We're really seeing kind of the whole map of how small businesses, and hopefully, you know, after we complete this year, we'll be able to go back and do an analysis of how well this is panned out. Are there any questions?
We have 20 people on the line at the moment, 10 of which are in a participant pool. So if anyone has a question that's in the participant pool, just go ahead and raise your hand. Everyone else that's that you see on the screen, you have the option of just opening your mic and speaking, so feel free. I guess while we're waiting to see if there's any questions, if there's anything we can do to help you promote this program through our own social media accounts, our website, or even a public mention at our board meetings, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that.
Yes, I actually want to say one other sort of shameless marketing moment here. Is to say that we have a special guest, Jane Iredale, who is going to be speaking about her success story and promoting a little bit of promoting of our small business program on January 5th. It's a free event on Zoom, and you can register with us through Eventbrite. And the Eventbrite is, I'm not sure if it's up on our website yet, but it should be soon. but you can kind of search for Jane Iredale on Eventbrite, and it's Jane's going to give her success story it's called From Nothing to Something. And Robin and I had a sneak peek of what it looks like, and it's really exciting. And Jane is happy to be supporting us, and she's one of our local heroes when it comes to small businesses. So we're really excited to do that event, and it's open and free to anyone who wants to register.
That's great. And if there's anything we can do to help you promote that as well, let us know. So,
yeah, definitely.
So let's shift gears into Windrush Commons. I know you have a project starting there very soon. Super exciting to think about more units of affordable housing here in Great Barrington. And I guess, can you just give us, I'm guessing there are a number of people on the line this morning that don't know much or anything perhaps about this project. So can you kind of just give us an overview how, what to expect, how this is different from Bentley, and what the timeline looks like?
Yes, this is really exciting. Just to backpedal a little bit too, while we were putting the finishing touches on Bentley, we were putting our application. I know Jim Harwood has a few extra gray hairs because of this time period, because while we were getting Bentley up and running during the pandemic, we were also applying for funding for Windrush Commons. So we had sort of these two major things happening at very much the same moment. Gratefully, we received the funding almost a year ago for Windrush Commons. And Windrush is a 49-unit rental affordable housing in 5 separate buildings at 910 South Main Street. It's right next to the VFW as you're going south. And right now you'll see an older home there. But so we received the funding back right before Thanksgiving, but because the Department of Housing was just so bogged down, we're really still closing on this property right now. We're in the last few minutes of closing. And we hope to see our construction crew on site later this month. And it's still startling to believe it's December, but so it's a really interesting, you'll see this photo behind me is a rendering of the buildings, and you can see that it's more of a townhouse style. There are duplexes that face the road, upstairs, downstairs duplexes. Some of them have small backyards, which is great, fenced in backyards. They have a community room. It backs up, it's on 6 acres, but it backs up to the wetlands there that are all conservation area. It's due to begin in December, and then we should be finished by March of 2023 and leasing up. And once again, Berkshire Housing Development will be our management company. And we have partnered with Wayfinders, Inc., which is out of Springfield, as our co-sponsor of this particular complex. So this would be our 3rd affordable housing complex in Great Barrington. And our first was Hillside Apartments, which is a 10-unit. I got that right. I always say 11, but I want to say 11 for some reason, but there's 10 units there. And that's been we've had that since 2012. So that was our first project there. But so I'm happy to answer questions about Windrush. We had hoped to do a photo this next week, but the snow is going to prohibit that. So unfortunately, we're going to wait till spring before we take any photographs there. It's just a little too snowy and a little too much of a hill to get cars up there.
Anyone with a question from the participant pool? Just go ahead and raise your hand. If you're calling in on a phone, it's *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute yourself. No questions. All right.
Quiet group this morning.
I guess so.
Unless, oh wait, we see Tim Newman has his hand up. He's muted.
Hi, this is not specifically related to Windrush, but it is. We all know that there's a tremendous shortage of housing on all levels, and certainly in this area. I'm not all that clear on the criteria that makes you qualify for affordable housing. I've been told anecdotally that even firefighters, teachers, police, nurses may not have, may have insufficient income or may have too much income to qualify. Can you clarify that?
I wish I had the statistics and the matrix for you, Tim. Our management company, Berkshire Housing, has a complex system and a qualifying criteria for how people would qualify. And there's so many factors I wouldn't even begin to delve into. It's not that simple of the math, there's a lot of varying criteria of how people qualify for the rentals and the lottery that happens. And so what you might want to do, Mark, I don't know, in the future, maybe have Eileen Peltier on as a guest from Berkshire Housing, or I don't think you can do that because she's up in North County, but Tim, I would highly encourage anyone who has a question about how to qualify to go to their website and speak with, help me out here, is it Lisa?
Yeah, probably Lisa.
Lisa's last name?
Right.
Lisa Wright, who is their leasing, I think she's the leasing agent who leads this effort. And talk with them, and everyone, we get a ton of phone calls from people thinking we're the people who actually do the leasing. We've worked really hard to make sure that they know we're not that person. But it's so complex that I think it's better coming from the people who do this on a daily basis than me. And so we do want to make sure that they give the answers to those questions to anyone who wants to lease. Anyone has a question about getting an apartment at Bentley or Hillside, any of our properties, Berkshire Housing those are the folks who can help you out.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question that you may have an answer for. We know that there's a tremendous shortage of housing. One of the reasons that is given that so many restaurants and retail shops are having difficulty staffing is that the people that they would want to hire can't afford to live in Great Barrington. Do you have any projections if money were no object and property was available to build on? Do you have any sense of how many units would solve this problem?
Hold on, I'm going to get my crystal ball out and see, because, I'm in a lot of large discussions with all of the entities who do affordable housing in the region. There's a regional housing committee, like every entity, you name it, from Habitat to the Berkshire Housing Trust. I mean, there's a lot of nonprofits addressing this issue right now, Tim. And that's precisely what we're looking at, is what is the breadth of this problem, and what do we need immediately to help fix this? Is it zoning? Is it education? Is it money? So there's a larger group analyzing this. If money were no object, I really don't know if it's all about money all the time. It could be the towns aren't allowing it. There's just not enough, or neighbors aren't interested in having affordable housing next to them, and there's some pushback on that. There's a variety of reasons why we're not able to sort of magically just create what's needed. And Jim, you have your mic off. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about this, but he's now put his mic. You're muted, Jim.
This is a huge topic, and
yeah, it is.
The first thing I'm going to say is the CDC's mission is to create affordable housing, and rental, and now we're seeing the opportunity to create affordable home ownership. And sometimes as part of our projects, we include some ratio of market rate housing, because that helps to make the numbers work, and also there may be other goals in there for that. So that's what we do. And that's why we're focused on affordable housing. The question, to answer the first question about firefighters and such, it would depend. A firefighter who makes $60,000 or $80,000 a year as a single person probably wouldn't qualify for most of our affordable housing. But if he has a family of 4, he might very well qualify for our affordable housing. And so there's no simple answer to that question. But I think you can take heart in the understanding that police and firefighter and teachers are people that are part of the need for affordable housing. The other issue you're talking about, which is market rate housing, is really complicated because who's going to build it? If a developer builds market rate housing, he's going to want to maximize his profit. In what climate are we building it? Our material market, the cost of a sheet of plywood, is not very different in Berkshire County than it is in Boston. But you can sell it, you can turn around and sell it for a lot more in Boston than you can sell it for in Berkshire County, because there's greater property values there. Labor, likewise, I don't have hard statistics, but I mean, one of the things that struck me when I came out of New York 14 years ago and came up here was that the labor rates were so approximately equal in the trades. And makes some sense, actually, because we're only 2 hours from New York, and we're 2 to 3 hours from New York and 2 hours from Boston. So a lot of the labor is migrating on even just commuting on a daily basis to go work on projects much closer to Boston. And so why would a carpenter work here for less money than he would in Boston? So they're working here, but they're getting paid a lot of money. So comparatively, when our labor rates and our material rates are all comparable to someplace like Boston or New York, it's very difficult to build new housing and compete with, which is the third tripod of this problem. The existing housing stock and comparable sales are relatively low and affordable. Well, I take affordable away, relatively low. And so it makes it very hard to get financing, actually, because when you start, if you're going to build a house, and this is what I deal with a lot, because I do a lot personally, professionally, I do a lot of new construction. When you go to get a loan, the banks want to see comparables, and they're not going to just compare it to other new houses. They compare it to recent sales, and the recent sales are relatively low. So again, it puts a drag on the market rate housing. So it's a very difficult problem to solve.
Tim, I just wondered, Tim, if you had any ideas on this. I mean, you've been following this, I'm sure. With money were no object, how?
I mean, a couple of things. I think we all would agree that the economic vitality of the area really has a couple of components that I'm thinking of. One is we need more entrepreneurs to move here and open businesses. And I'm thinking at the moment, particularly about the restaurant industry, which is, in my opinion, in crisis mode in Great Barrington. And so one part of that is, who's going to come and open these places and make exciting food? And the second question is, who's going to work there? Where are they going to live? Where are they going to come from? So we need to encourage people who have money and ideas to be here, but we also need, there needs to be employees. And so my question earlier was not about market rate housing, although we need that market rate rentals too. I was thinking about how do we make it more possible for people who are wage earners in these areas, it's just say in restaurants for now, to live closer to where they're working. And so my question was, you're doing a tremendous amount of building, and it's very impressive. I talk regularly to Elizabeth Rosenberg at Construct, who's a good friend. So, she's thrown out some numbers which are not data-based, but they're shockingly high, as to what she thinks the need is. And so what I was asking was, if it could happen, would it take 60 more units, 300? How many more units of affordable housing would we need in Great Barrington to meet the demand of people who would like to live here and work here, for restaurants and retail shops and so on? Because if we can't solve that problem, we're screwed.
Well, I agree with you. I don't know, Mark, if you have a concept of how much we need or how much the town would allow, but all I can say, and I can echo what Jim said, this is what we do. We are working as fast as we can under the current conditions, and that's slow because we work through state funding. We're working through a state funding system. And if I could tell you how there are 27 entities on my closing calls every Monday afternoon. So it's slow. And I think, like I always like to say, if I had some eggs, I'd make an omelet, you know? So if I had more money and more stuff, yeah, I think we could certainly identify projects, and if we didn't go through the state funding process and we could cut to the chase faster, of course, I think we would be able to solve that faster. And what we do now, obviously there are other creative solutions that I've heard. Obviously, there's a couple articles in the Eagle today. I know Bill Cook was quoted about if the Great Barrington Housing Trust could purchase the buildings, these multifamily homes that were going out for sale, and they could purchase them and renovate them, that could be a faster solution. But I'm not authority, and I'm not speaking for Bill Cook on that. But I see these things popping up. I hear businesses just excruciating conversations about how they can't pay. They can't even pay the rent for their managers locally because there's no place to rent. They're basically paying travel expenses for people to travel from Springfield and further out. And it's excruciating to hear how businesses are debilitated over this issue. And economic development and housing is intimately linked. They'll never be separate in this environment. So I agree with you.
Understand, by what I said, I don't mean to be criticizing the CDC.
No.
I think you're doing a great job.
So can I speak a little bit to that question?
Sure.
Tim?
Ahead,
so,
Tim.
you know, we do market studies that go into each of our projects. So somewhere in our paperwork, we could give you a better, you know, what percentage of affordable housing as a ratio of the market rate housing in the Great Barrington catchment area exists, and you know, when would the market be saturated. So we could get back to you on that. We can look into it. But one threshold that exists is, you know, if a town has 10%, less than 10% affordable housing, it's subject to adversarial, you know, zoning. And it's really, you know, worth noting that Great Barrington, I think, if it hasn't, is very close to getting to that 10% mark. Yep. And so, I mean, that's, you know, like pat yourselves on the back, right? Because that's a community effort. But interestingly, that doesn't seem to be the stopping point. It really is almost just the starting line, right? Because we still see that we need a lot of it. And this is a conversation, specifically, you mentioned employees and how can they live. It's a conversation that we've been having internally. And we mentioned the concept of micro houses as part of this 2-acre development. And that's grown out, you know, that target market we're thinking is the person who's here maybe without any family at all, who's working in a restaurant or some such, you know, job, and they need 300 square feet, and that's what they can afford to pay. And, you know, and that's how it's going to work. Another conversation that we've been having, but it's really in its infancy, and there's some hurdles, because this gets to your point, if money was no object, because unfortunately money's an object.
Right.
And so one of the things that we've been talking about is there a way for the community of businesses to get together and develop a project that would serve their employees and not be quote unquote affordable housing with the whole qualification process. So for instance, could it be a condo project and each business owns a condo in it, and that's where their employees live? And so it's an interesting idea and may be one that serves the community well, but like on a typical project for us, 49 units, 910 Main Street, I don't know, is it a $19 million project now with escalation? You know, probably 17 million of that $19 million is money that comes to us in one way or another through state aid. It's not always directly grant money. Sometimes it's, you know, tax credits that we're able to, you know, a large portion of it is that, but 17 out of $19 million is money someone's giving us to make this project work. So when we start talking about filling this other need, which is a glaring need. We have some big economic hurdles to get over, but if it's a conversation you want to get, foster and be a part of and continue, where we'd be happy to. I mean,
if I may say, one of the things that would come up down the road when people are trying to do new projects is the support or resistance of neighbors. And I think to some extent there is, the reason I asked about firefighters and teachers and stuff, there's what's the term, like a misapprehension on the part of many citizens that the people that live in these quote unquote affordable housing units are some sort of, they're people on food stamps. They're people that are on the dole. And I don't know whether what I'm saying is true or would help, but I think the dialogue about the problem would benefit if the greater population of the town understood the magnitude of the problem and could be made to care about by understanding who this housing is for and what will happen if it isn't available. So, it's maybe something that the town should be addressing or starting or being the focus of the start of a conversation. I don't know. It's very frustrating because it's like we all know what the problem is, and the speed at which it's being solved is, what's happening is laudable. What you're doing is great. It's just not enough.
Well, you're right. If fear and misinformation is a bit of a, we've all seen this in varying ways. People project their biggest fear and they want to talk about their biggest fear. And so that's what happens. People are afraid of what would happen if someone were to move into my neighborhood who were lower income. And, that's a conversation. I agree with you. I think the only way to get that to change is community conversations. And, I'm having them, our board members are having them, the town is having them. I'm seeing the conversations happen in small pockets. We do our very best to communicate. And I think we could do a better job of communicating. And I do hope that in the new year, we can convene some larger groups. I know that there's an advocacy effort on the part of our regional housing groups to do more regional communication and take in all the stakeholders and listen to the dissident voices and educate people. It's a process, Tim, you understand these things, but having conversations, this has to happen all the time. And the misinformation needs to stop. And we need to kind of really understand that we're trying to solve this as a group. And that's what we can do. I see someone else has their hand raised. I can't quite tell who it is.
Yeah, I believe that's Ed Abrams. Ed, it's *6 to unmute yourself. You can go ahead.
Hello, thank you. I raised my hand back when you were talking about, although it's appropriate again now, back you were talking about the 100 Bridge, in that my understanding is that of the 45 units, 44 were local. There are people who are from Great Barrington.
That's right.
And I think when you're talking, and the other one was somebody with special needs who needed an apartment like that, who was from somewhere else and had to move in order to get the apartment. So when people do, one of the things you hear often when people are complaining is the people will be coming here from elsewhere, which A, I'm not sure is a problem even if it were happening, but B, isn't happening. I remember one of the early discussions about, I think it was that same project, Tim said, was it 35% of us are eligible? Of the people who live in Great Barrington are eligible. So I just wanted to point that out, that it is locals who are moving into these.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate that.
Just one kind of related thing about locals versus quote unquote, I'm a non-local. I've been here 18 years, but I'm not from here.
Right, guilty as charged. 14.
Yeah, and there are many in this category. And there was a distressing part of the conversation at the Monday night Select Board Planning Board meeting that touched on that subject, which is, there's a spirit in the community. There's some number of people who would be thrilled if no one from elsewhere ever moved here ever again. And I think that's, you know, I don't know if you can change people's minds, but that's a distressing thing. Oh, I know. I was going to ask a more useful question. When you do these projects, is there any legal way that you can create a category of potential renters who have employment that is, let's say, critical to the town? Or is that just simply that kind of thing, just straight up illegal? Could you designate that if people wanted to apply, that one of the things you wanted to know was what their employment was, and that you could create some preferential arrangement whereby people who are, you know, deemed more critical than others would get a higher place in the line?
So the question of preferential, yes, I do believe the lottery for Bentley had Great Barrington. If you work in Great Barrington, if you live in Great Barrington, or you have a child in school in Great Barrington, those did weigh more to your advantage in the lottery.
As an applicant.
Yeah. Basically. So when Ed mentioned that the people from Great Barrington have the 44 apartments, they met that criteria. So there already is a way in which that does weigh into the qualifying process working in Great Barrington.
Okay, thank you. I've dominated enough of this conversation.
You're okay. That's okay. Good question.
I will mute myself and just be an observer.
We can talk offline too.
The one thing I wanted to add to
I'm happy to talk anytime you want.
Okay.
I wanted to add, we're in a county whose population is technically shrinking. And we're probably in a country whose population is technically shrinking at this point. So if we need more people, we either have to steal them from New York or Boston, or we need to look towards immigration, I think. And there's actually an interesting opportunity right now because Springfield has a situation where they've accepted a bunch of Afghan refugees, and they're looking to place them. And so I it's kind of a complete tangent for what you're saying, but if we're trying to bring people into work and trying to bring in people who tend to have an entrepreneurial spirit, and we, trying to get past prejudices of us versus them, this is a great opportunity for us as a community, not just Great Barrington, Berkshires generally, to try and attract some people into the community.
I had someone say to me once, well, now that you've found paradise, you want to close the door behind you. And that for me was a good kick in the pants, because everyone could say that, oh, I found this incredible place and now I don't want anyone else to have it. And we're all guilty sort of that, I guess, and in some way. And so what does that mean, for community is a whole different analysis. And it's not for me to say, but we're trying hard to adhere to all the rules, Tim, as you mentioned, that we have when it comes to being supported by state funds, as well as working with the town and the neighbors. We've got a lot of entities that we're balancing. So we're doing our best on that front. Mark, I don't know if you have any other questions after this. I just noticed the time, but. That's
okay. I have one last question for you. I know you're closing on your first year with the CDC in this role. So I'm curious how it's going overall.
Oh, isn't that a nice question? I think I started with the CDC in 2015, believe it or not. So I'm working through my 6th or 7th year here. And Emmeline and I have, we've worked together for 5 of those 7, I don't know, something like that. So, and Jim Harwood and I, and we all kind of go, we've got a longer history than the year that I've been in the seat. But, I think like everyone, this has been an amazingly challenging time. I mean, it's a marathon for everyone right now. And we're all, as far as I can see, we're just grinding, we're gritting our teeth and grinding it out and trying really hard to stay focused in while everything going on around us, our families, our friends, our work cohorts, there's a lot of things happening. So it's been a challenging year, but on the other hand, it's been an incredibly rewarding year because we went through a transition in the summer. I actually started July 1st, 2020, and spent 6 months in transition in the trenches with Jim Harwood and Richard Stanley and other folks on the board, Peter Pusilowski, who's been volunteering in pro bono work for us, and a bunch of people who were just jumped in, transitioned, and all of our board and some volunteers got us through to September when I took over as executive director, landed our projects. We balanced a lot of things and started the new year in 2021 with a really exciting feeling of success and momentum. And we've brought on some great new board members and some new partners. And so I think it's been remarkably successful given what the environment. And I can't be more grateful for the people who have joined the CDC as volunteers. And that's our board. And what a remarkable hands-on group. And that's all I can say is that I'm just one cog in the wheel, and that wheel includes 14 other people, and then community partners like yourself, Mark, and the town, and people like Tim, who's been volunteering on the Entrepreneurs Forum, and all the other folks. So I can only say I'm part of the solution. And we're just going to keep keep going. That's what we can do. I don't know if my group wants to say anything more, but
I'll add. So the CDC has been around for a long time, and there are a lot of great things to build on, and there were also a lot of challenges to overcome. And I'm a big fan of mixed metaphors, so I feel like we threw Allison in the deep end with her pants on fire. Okay.
And pants are now not on fire anymore.
Yeah, so fortunately the fire went out when she got thrown in the deep end, but then she had to learn how to swim. And so there are, also many great things about Allison and her previous experience, and it was really helpful that she knew the organization. But there were also a bunch of things that we were asking her to pick up and learn on the fly, and she just, in the middle of a new crisis, which was affecting everybody, and so she did a great job. And but I don't want to miss the Hollywood square that is Emmeline, because she also has been rock solid for our organization for a lot of years, and likewise has blossomed in the past year. So the two of them are just killing it, as my kids would say.
Yeah, we're small and we're stealth, but like I said, we rely on a team of really amazing volunteers too. So thanks for asking, Mark.
Yeah, well, thank you to all of you actually for everything you're doing for our community as a whole. And Allison, thank you for joining me this morning for this discussion.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I just have a few, I know we're closing in on 11 o'clock here. I have a few quick town updates to share with the group. And then if there are any other questions or comments, we can cover those as well. But going back to what you said earlier, Allison, about the Bentley and Bridge paving and sidewalks, we're at substantial completion on that project at the moment. The Taconic lot, which I'm sure everyone has been impacted by in one way or another. The paving, drainage work, striping, lighting, and all the work that's happening over there is at substantial completion at this point as well. You'll probably see some additional lighting and landscaping happening over there. But for the most part, our goal was to have that lot reopened by the holiday shopping season, and we've hit that mark, so that's exciting. You'll see a construction crew around town again today, finishing up some striping projects, including the Bentley and Bridge neighborhood, as well as all the new parking stalls down on North Main Street, which I hope you'll help me spread the word on. 60 new parking stalls have been identified and painted down at that end of town, and it's just a quick walk into town. So I hope people will use those this holiday season and again in the summer. Our Taconic wall and step project right behind Town Hall here should be wrapping up shortly. The end caps or wall caps arrived, and they should be closing in on that project next week. The front steps at Town Hall are under construction, as you've probably noticed, with all the fencing out front. We should be finishing that project up within a week or so. The pollinator plants in town are just about completed at this point. I don't know if you've noticed the crews in and around Main Street installing those quickly before the ground freezes. And the holiday lights are going up today. I know a number of you have asked when that will happen. That was supposed to happen Monday, and the cleanup from the snow unfortunately delayed our staff a few days, but they are going up today. And the Du Bois banners will be installed within a few weeks in plenty of time for Martin Luther King Day. So that's all I have to share with you this morning. Does anyone else have a question or a comment?
Good work, Mark.
I just want to give a shout out to the town crew, Sean's crew and Chris and all of the public works people, all of those projects happening simultaneously, most of which were completed on or ahead of schedule. And it's been awesome. As a downtown tenant that's done my share of complaining, this time it's the opposite. They worked neat, they worked fast, they were organized, the disruption was minimal, and a shout out to them, big one.
Thank you. I will be sure to pass that on. They don't receive all that many compliments. So anytime I hear one, I pass that along immediately. It's good for morale down there. So, well, thank you all again for joining. Allison, thanks for speaking this morning. And I hope to see you all at our January coffee, and have a great holiday season.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.